Agenda carries. Next, I need an approval of the minutes for the May 12th, 2021 special meeting.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Gelsomino.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 12th, 2021 special meeting.
I'll second that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes carry. Next, we have the announcements with Shelley Houston.
Hello, commissioners. It's so nice to see you in person, and greetings to those of you in the greater Zoomiverse. It's nice to have you with us as well. I hate to just read a handout to you, but you do have a hard copy of this flyer of upcoming events. A few are already past us. I don't know if I was able to attend the Mayor's State of the City address last week, and it was most excellent. It's now a Chamber of Commerce event, sponsored by Albertsons, and it had a nice crowd at the Galaxy Event Center and was also broadcast online. If you weren't able to attend in person, as seating was limited, you can view that on the city's YouTube channel or Facebook page. You can find a link. So Robert spoke highly of our Parks and Recreation Department and Discovery Park and some of our highlights. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Fish and Game's been out with the Take Me Fishing trailer to some of the ponds. We feel like we're starting to cook and book finally. So the few things I want to talk about, the Meridian Main Street Market. I was so happy to hear Cherie, our coordinator, tell us that last Saturday was one of the probably the biggest, best crowds they've had. So I feel like it's finally found its footing and getting some momentum going after a rough year like everyone had. So again, the Main Street Market happens each Saturday out in the area surrounding the plaza here from 9 to 2. So stop by and show some support to the vendors. There's music and food trucks and some community information available there as well. We're excited that this Friday night, 2 nights from now, Sparklight Movie Night will return to Meridian. We're starting with Frozen 2, which is quite popular. And so we're hoping families will come out with their picnic blankets and low back chairs and their snacks and their friends. And of course, there'll be a concession stand and there's built-in restrooms. So if you haven't experienced Sparklight Movie Night, any Friday night would be lots of fun, and you can go and see the type of crowd it attracts and how much fun it is. Also this Saturday, Kleiner Park sees one of its largest events, which is the Saturday in the Park car show. And I'm not even a car person, and it excites me. There are shiny, pretty cars, and it's sponsored by the Treasure Valley Mustang and Ford Club, but it's all different vintages, all different makes and models. And so it's really quite a sight to see. And they have raffle prizes and live music and food trucks. So it's kind of a festival atmosphere, but it really covers the lawn at Kleiner Park. So that's this Saturday from 10 to 3. Dairy Days, we're gonna, not as a commission participate, but as a city, we help build a float or put it together each year for the mayor and city council to ride with a dairy theme. It's a flatbread, and we have some hay bales and maybe some cow eyelashes or something dairy-ish. So that'll take place on June 26th. It's a Friday night. Or is it the 25th? Anyway, whatever the Friday night of Dairy Days. Dairy Days goes June 23rd through 26th. We're also going to sponsor a first-time cornhole tournament that'll be over at Mo Brooks Field, and we're getting ready to kind of announce that. We'll have 4th of July, as always, minus some of the games and hands-on activities. We'll still have the food trucks and the fireworks, but we'll more encourage families to come gather together and bring their own games and amusements. So that'll be literally on the 4th of July in Story Park from 3 to 10:30 with a professional fireworks display. And then again, finally this year again, we'll celebrate National Night Out on August 3rd. That's got a heavy crime and anti-vandalism message. If neighborhoods put on different gatherings to get to know their neighbors and show solidarity against neighborhood crime, they can let us know they're having a gathering, and there's a chance that mayor or council or police or fire can make a visit during the night, and they'll hand out some informational brochures, and it's a lot of fun. Anything from ice cream socials or pie eating to full-fledged barbecues. So anyway, there's even more, but these are kind of what I consider the highlights for now. We also had a nice Memorial Day service at the Rock of Honor, which was very well attended and the weather was perfect. And those vintage airplanes flew over right on cue. So it was lovely as well. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, if you ever need to know, give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, and that Friday is the 25th. You're welcome. Okay, moving on to new business. We have the Meridian Parks and Rec Department Urban Forestry Management Plan update with Matthew Perkins, our city arborist.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Good to see your faces all again. Last time we visited, we were all masked up, so it's nice to see you. All right. So this is the Meridian City Urban Forest Management Plan that has been in the works for, say a good year or so now. One of the first assignments that I was given, and in order to come up with this plan, I had to first take a look at what we had, okay, and had to ask myself some questions about what kind of information I wanted to collect. Are you working the slides or? So naturally, start with the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So, and I had to ask myself, well, what is a urban forest management plan, and what is an urban forest management plan supposed to do? So the who, I think, is kind of obvious. That would be me in conjunction with our stakeholders and our partners. Okay. The what would be, we would want to make sure that we introduce the concept and the need for a plan, and then probably define any specialized terms that might pop up throughout the plan so that they are well-defined and there for you to understand. Then touch a little bit briefly on the history and the population and the trends throughout the city, because without understanding the population, and we're not going to have a hard time understanding what the needs would be for the urban forest. So there's a little bit in there about the history and the population of Meridian. Then have to identify a mission statement and identify the objectives of the plan, and then discuss the process needed to create the plan. In the why, we would discuss why the trees are needed. Why would the city need trees, right? It goes well beyond actually just the aesthetic beauty and the shade and the obvious reasons. So we really get into a lot of the benefits of trees. Then we would want to look at why a plan is needed. So a plan is needed because of these reasons. Okay. When we haven't really set a tenure for this plan yet. We're thinking what, 10 years or so, like a 10-year management plan, or that's yet to be determined. So that's still up in the air. Where obviously we would want to address where the urban forest is in Meridian. And that it was very important because we needed to establish which trees throughout the city is actually managing, okay? And we jump into the how and describe the current policies. We look at what we're doing now and the current status of our urban forest, and then identify our stakeholders and partners and evaluate the findings and make recommendations from there. Then we can establish goals to set out to accomplish those recommendations and lay out strategies to accomplish those goals, okay? So Meridian Forestry now, what does it look like? Meridian Forestry currently consists of one dedicated full-time employee. That would be me, your Meridian City arborist. A vast majority of the tree work associated with the city managed trees is performed by contractors under the supervision of myself. And that includes tree pruning, removal, stump removals, and planting. So a lot of that type of work gets contracted out. Sometimes I save some neat jobs for myself to do if I'm not too bogged down with other things. But I like to get into the trees myself sometimes. So. And the city arborist also works with the planning department on tree mitigation. I work with code enforcement on nuisance tree issues. I respond to public inquiries. I coordinate the Arbor Day celebration and the Christmas tree project, and I address IPM concerns, IPM being integrated pest management. And make sure that Meridian continues to qualify as a Tree City USA, which is actually a big part of my job description. And it involves actually quite a bit. The city needs to continue to grow our forestry program in unique ways in order to continue to qualify and get those growth awards. So I had to take a look at the inventory, what we had in our urban forest in order to understand how best to care for it. So we have an inventory system that I've been working on updating since I've been here now. We're pretty gosh darn close to having every tree on the inventory brought up to current date on that. The information I collect in that inventory ranges from, the species to the DBH to the type of land where it's growing in, where the locations and any issues that I may find with the trees health-wise, or any concerns for pruning or hazard abatement or anything like that. So as you can see by this slide here, our top 10 most common trees by genus currently are Acer, which are maple, Pinus, which are pine trees, and Gladitia, which are honey locust, and Fraxinus, which are ash. That's changed since the last time I actually gave you guys an update on this, and that is because we just brought on all of the trees at the Lakeview Golf Course onto the inventory. There were over 730 trees there, and there were a lot of pines. So it really changed the kind of the face of our inventory of trees there. One of the really unique things about the inventory program that we're using is that we are able to look at the ecosystem benefits that are provided by our urban canopy. And this is an important, powerful tool because, like I said, the benefits of trees go far beyond the aesthetic qualities in the shade. So as you can see, one of the biggest benefits that they provide is in stormwater runoff prevention. Okay, our urban canopy, the trees that we have on inventory, account for 4,492,620 gallons of stormwater runoff that do not go into our waste water resource recovery facility. Said it right. So these benefits are calculated using the species, the type of species, because different species are more adept at preventing these things and have different benefits than others. Obviously, depending on the size of the tree or whatnot, the DBH of the tree and the land use, the type of land use. Now, when I say land use, are we talking about a park? Are we talking about a small business or like a single family home or a commercial operation, a facility like the wastewater resource recovery facility? So the type of land where our trees are growing is going to have a big impact on that. So like a tree growing with a nice big rooting space for the tree to grow and realize its full potential, growing, say, in a space in front of a small business where there's a lot of hard space like sidewalk and parking lots, is going to have a lot more value than actually a tree in a park. Because a tree in a park, there's a bunch of them in our parks, and the parks are already mitigating that stormwater runoff. There's not a lot of hard space in the parks where that water is going to run off that hard space and into the drains. So, so there's a lot that goes into that. All right, next. So while I was working on this, these kind of guiding principles started bubbling up for me. The same themes, and originally I was calling them tenets, kind of like the commandments that underlie a good urban forest management plan. So we decided to call them guiding principles instead, and those are to protect, expand, manage, inform, and partner. So we need to protect the urban forest that we already have, and we would like to expand it, and we would like to obviously manage the urban forest that we have now, and then work to inform the public on how we can continue to manage this and grow the urban forest and provide benefits to them through the forestry program, and then partner. So, and we can't do this without our partners, and all of our partners will be identified in that urban forest management plan. Then obviously I had to come up with some goals and objectives. Now, after going through all of the things we previously discussed, naturally some goals and objectives would come up. In the plan, in the appendices, I laid out those goals and objectives in the form of actions to take, and then the capital cost estimate associated with those actions, and then the operational budget impact, and then the time frame to complete those actions. And actually, so the process of creating the Meridian Urban Forest Management Plan has allowed the city arborists to identify many areas of opportunity where we can grow the forestry program without having a substantial impact on the current budget. Okay, I think that I have answered all of the who, what, why, where, when, and how there. Do you have questions for me? No questions?
We talk about getting them a copy of the working draft so that they can see it and provide any comments and.
Absolutely. I actually have provided the commissioners with a copy of the working draft via electronic email. So,
Madam President.
Yes.
and keep in mind, as you're reading that, which I think you won't have a hard time remembering because it says draft right on the copy. It's still a working document.
It's not. Yes, Commissioner Hyde. Oh, is it? Sorry, Commissioner Nesmith. It was in the right area.
I just had a quick question, and obviously this is the big picture element of it, but went out and checked out the Arboretum in Plainer. I didn't know, is that it probably isn't part of that, like how you would take care of a smaller, that's kind of a special spot.
Absolutely. The Arboretum is called out in my goals and objectives as an area where I can actually expand on that and increase the educational value to the public there. In fact, since I've started working on this, I have created a self-guided tree walk at the Arboretum that anybody can do. You can actually, if you're walking through the Arboretum, you might notice a couple of the tree signs have a QR code on them. If you happen to have your phone on you while you're walking through the Arboretum, you can scan that QR code and it will take you to a page on the Meridian City website where it will have an information plate for each of the 57 trees, I think, that are on the tree walk there. So, and that's something that I plan to continue to evolve and work.
The update. Is there any plan on, because it was kind of interesting trying to, and I don't know how that self-guided tour goes, but I'm sure you have some plans on trying to improve that whole situation, because it's kind of funny, you do a lot of zigzagging and crossing. It's hard to have some continuity and kind of just go check it out without
Zigzagging all
everywhere.
around. Yeah.
So,
Actually, on that tree walk, I've provided also a map of the Arboretum with the trees numbered. And I tried to make it as kind of a nice meandering walk throughout the Arboretum too. So
thank you.
Madam President, Commissioner West.
I didn't get to read your full draft, but I saw the part where one of your main goals was to diversify. So back on that other slide, which are the ones that you're trying to add? Like the top three, one of them was the ash, which you said last year is going to go away with the bug that's coming. So if you could elaborate on.
that is an important issue. Actually, yeah, I would like to limit the number of ash trees that are being used in the city throughout at least the urban forest that we manage, because there is a very damaging pest that's knocking on our back door in Colorado called the emerald ash borer. And when it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that pest gets here, it is going to devastate our ash tree populations throughout the city. Now, our urban forest that the city manages does not include private property trees. So my inventory does not reflect how many ash trees there are throughout the private properties. And that includes like right of way and whatnot, but it only includes the ash trees that we have in our parks. So that is one tree that I want to eliminate from planting any more of in our parks, because we already have too many. It accounts for, I believe, somewhere around 16 to 17% of our total urban canopy. And I call this out in the plan too. You'll see as you read along that a good solid plan should, a healthy urban forest should not consist of more than 10% of any, 30% of any one family, 10% of any genus, and I might have that wrong, 30% of family, 20% genus, and 10% species of any one species. So we're already a little bit askew. So I'm working on trying to use those trees that are a little bit lower on the scale and bump those up and use those more and stop using some of the more heavily planted trees.
So can you recommend what kind of trees you would want to bring in? Like, so you're going to diversify more, but I mean, I think it would be helpful for everyone in the public too. What are the trees we want more of?
That's an excellent question. And actually, as part of the appendices, I have provided a list of trees that I recommend for use in the Meridian city. Yes.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Bobo.
I have a question, maybe not exactly related to this, but somewhat related. It's definitely trees in the urban forest. When we're out and about in the community and we see trees that need pruning, either because of growth or weather, how do we report that, or what would you recommend us do?
Are you talking about private trees or
No,
trees
no.
within our parks?
Within our parks.
Within our park
Yes.
system? If you see a tree that raises hackles or concerns in one of our parks, please don't hesitate to call me. and
Just
I
call
will
you
come and
directly.
look at it. Yes.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Commissioner Jill Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. Matt, the presentation itself, you nailed it. I really liked it when it comes to environmental stewardship and how we in the Parks and Recs Commission and in the department can contribute to that environmental stewardship. My ears perk up. And so one of the things that Commissioner West's question kind of made me think was, informing the public was one of your tenets. As someone who suffers from allergies, what kind of, is there a process, is there a method of, as we continue to plant and introduce more diverse trees into the community, to inform the public out there what to prepare for when it comes to allergy season? Because I get shots every week, and so maybe our healthcare field or our medical world here in Idaho isn't as knowledgeable or informed in what changes we're doing here.
Good question. Yeah, actually, ironically enough, I had the allergy test performed on myself too several years ago. And one of the things I am most allergic to is trees. Imagine that, the city arborist being allergic to trees. Yeah, so uh, th- so as far as informing the public about these kind of things, that also is part of, it's called out in my goals. And I would think that I could do something along the lines of like a brochure or putting it on, incorporating it into our website, which is another part of the plan that I would like to do, is because we don't have much of a forestry page on our website. And I think that would be good information to do. There's allergy clinics in town who do post what the current pollen is in the air. And another thing we could do is actually plant more female trees. Now, the female trees get a lot of disliking, and that's usually due to the fruit that they produce. But a very important aspect that female trees perform is they actually capture that pollen. So by planting female trees in our parks and strategic places, we could help reduce the pollen count in our city.
Madam President, for a follow-up question. And Mike, before I ask my follow-up question, if you thought that was a jaw dropper, I'm alert. My second biggest allergen, dogs. So Matt, as a follow-up question, do you believe or do you feel that in your research, in your studies, in your work, do you feel that there are certain pollinator animals, for lack of a better word, bees, butterflies, birds, that help, that could help with your, with your project, with your plan, and the overall health of our trees and our urban forest?
Absolutely. I'm a big staunch proponent of the pollinator gardens that have been going into many of our parks. And absolutely, yeah, everything is connected in nature, and it's important to have those pollinator gardens out there. And but it's also important to keep in mind that I wouldn't want to plant a bunch of linden trees right around a playground per se, because the bees love those linden trees when they're in full bloom, and you can stand underneath them and hear the trees literally buzzing sometimes. So, it's about, strategically planting those trees in the right places, where they're not going to cause issues.
Any more questions?
Madam President,
Commissioner West.
one more question is just, do you find like human damage to be an issue? I know a lot of people have been indoors, but more during parks, and I see when I go places, literally holes being drilled into trees to hang a hammock. And I wonder like, why would that be okay? And I'm just wondering if that's becoming an issue.
It's not okay. And yeah, there is actually a large percentage of what we call in the field mechanical damage to the trees, which would be somebody inflicting damage to the tree, maybe just breaking branches off because they're trying to climb it, or maybe just because they're bored. Sometimes I wonder why someone would do this. There's a tree that comes to mind at Settlers Park right by the baseball diamonds. It's a box elder tree. It's about a 10, maybe 12-inch diameter tree. It's a big tree. And somebody has been peeling the bark off of that, and it's almost completely peeled off, almost halfway around the tree. And it seems like maybe it might be the same person who comes every baseball game and does a little bit more each time they come. I actually took out a Sharpie and drew a big frowny face on it and said, "Please stop hurting me." Yes. Yeah. So
it is becoming a problem, but we just don't have a lot of options.
it's a common problem, and it's just something that we probably just have to deal with on a tree to tree basis.
Would our park ambassadors be able to help with that, or is that not really their role?
If they catch them or see them inflicting damage to the trees, then yeah, technically they're inflicting damage to city property. So
There could be a fine.
yeah.
potentially.
I don't know if that's a route that we would want to pursue, but yeah.
Well, I know we've pursued fines for some other things when they've been escalated and had issues like with, what was it? Noise with the teenagers at Sparklight Movie Night, in particular. And I was just wondering if that was successful or if that could potentially be something or what our options were really.
Madam President?
Yes, Commissioner Smith.
I witnessed and I talked to Mike about it. I can't remember the variety, but the huge tree that is on the corner of Ustick and Meridian Road, right in there. And there were some kids over there just hanging on branches and trying to break it off. I actually went over there and had a discussion, but effectively, is there a way that maybe just from a psychological deal, you could maybe put a fake camera up or just kind of do a deterrent like we've done in other things just to maybe, because you know how the word goes and it's generally a few people creating most of the problems.
We've had
Not
great
to-
success with installing video cameras throughout many of our parks for other reasons, but yeah, that is one of our prized trees. And that's something that's kind of been on my mind, something that I can do special to kind of help protect and preserve that tree because it's a pretty special tree.
I bought some day cameras to my place for $20 on Amazon. It's got a blinking red light. They're extraordinarily effective. So for the neighbor kids that were causing problems. So just an idea. Yeah. And just an idea because it's kind of a bummer to see. I mean, that's a beautiful tree and you can't.
I would hate to see anything happen to that
Kind
tree
of want to,
for sure.
So anyway, just an idea that I thought maybe you're
I have a few
helping.
ideas. I will add that to my list of ideas for preserving and protecting that tree.
I'll donate the zip ties.
You could put a,
Yeah.
you could put up a hot wire fence,
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Hyde.
I know from a youth perspective that in your plan, you talk a lot about education. Is there a way or is there a part of the plan that would appeal more to, younger kids or kids my age that I know that there's these like walks and there's scanning, which is like really, really good for us. But is there like scavenger hunts or things like that that could almost appeal to the younger audience?
That's great. That is great. I gotta keep that one. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there for, it is called out in the plan in my education section to provide, workshops and in educational kind of walks and stuff like that. But that would be a great one to put on for sure. A great activity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This is actually a pretty good idea. And I have also maybe got after a couple of kids. They do, especially at Settlers Park. They do like to climb on the trees. That was a great presentation and
Paige?
thank you for the link with the rest of the information.
Thank you all for your time and consideration and your support. Thank you.
We have it on record. You said we can call you.
Yeah,
questions about
absolutely.
trees.
That's
Exactly.
what I'm here for. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
a great asset to the city.
Gonna write that.
Okay. Next, we have the Meridian Parks and Rec Department Strategic Update with Steve Sidaway, our director.
Ready or not? All right. Well, I'm excited to share with you the strategic update that I used for updating the city council just a few weeks ago on our recent activities. I thought would also be a good update for you. And the last section of this deals with upcoming opportunities, challenges, things like that, that translate into the budget requests that we are about to make next week. Is the first budget workshop of the year. So wanted to talk about and get your thoughts, feedback, support for any of the budget request items that we're about to discuss. But kicked it off with just some highlights from last year. We did win the IRPA award for the best outstanding park or facility in the state with Discovery Park in its first phase. We celebrated Craig Steele's retirement from 20 years on this commission, and also celebrated Elroy's retirement as our city arborist, and Matt, who you just heard from, took his place, and Elroy retired after 20 years as well. I wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge that we were in, this was kind of a look back of the last year, what did 2020 look like for us? And wanted to acknowledge the impacts that COVID did have on us as a department. We did see decreases in the number of picnic shelter reservations compared to the prior year, number of class and camp registrations, and the number of ball field registrations. But I also kind of marveled at how large they were in spite of everything that was going on. So in spite of things definitely being impacted and down, we never did completely stop, and there was still a lot going on. And one of the things that we found was that parks themselves became more important than ever, because when so many other recreational venues were shut down, getting out into the parks and having a picnic or going for a walk was one of those opportunities that never did stop and became more and more important to people. The big graph on the right is from the National Recreation and Parks Association with some national statistics of people getting out into parks more last year. This is you guys at the golf course with our masks on. But we love our commission, and just threw some kudos to your way with the council, but really appreciate all the work that you do as volunteers to act as a sounding board and give us feedback on behalf of the community, and give us your perspective, everything from youth perspectives, which, have you ever thought about, this, or just really appreciate what you guys do for us. Then just some of our accomplishments, and these are we have three kind of big focus areas, quality being one, community, and fun. And so we kind of got these lumped under some. I'm not going to read the whole things to you, but maybe highlight, one or two on each slide. One of the highlights for me last year had to be those new public art installations at Renaissance Park and Champion Park. And we saw the ones at Renaissance Park last year when we did our bike tour last year, for those that were part of the commission then. And those have been a great addition to those parks. It's hard to believe that it was only last year, at the beginning of the year, I can't remember if it was January or February, but that's when we held our grand reopening celebration of home court. It seems so long ago with everything that's happened in the last year. But we finished all those Bay 5 improvements and all the stuff with the restrooms that were improved there. And the home court just really got some great improvements. I'll also point out the pollinator garden in the top photo. That's another very special addition as well. Lots of work this last year on pathways, as I know you know, but the Pine Avenue Rest Stop, which was the end of our tour just last month, and we did the James Court sidewalk widening. We visited both of those spots, as well as starting and stopping at the 10-mile trail hub, and we saw the Fairview Avenue connection underway. And so we actually visited several of these sites. We have some in progress, and I have another slide coming up that'll talk about the projects for the coming year. So this is still looking back. Kind of a strange thing to highlight, but those leaf collection bins in the bottom left that we partnered with our environmental division in Public Works Department, and they asked if we could try placing those out. those were so popular. It's almost overwhelming. Like we put them out and they were full in one day. And so we get them emptied and they'd fill the next day. Those were, so I'm sure we're going to do it again, but the leaf collection bins were a really popular trial this last year for the first time. Very proud of that Holiday Classic volleyball and cornhole tournament. That's our fundraiser to provide Christmas gifts to families in need through the Meridian Head Start program. And I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but something more than 50 kids got gifts through those fundraisers at Christmas this year. We also visited the golf course, and I know you're familiar with the fact that we've recently taken over that, and we've entered the golf game, as it were, and taken on new responsibilities there. Shelley mentioned the Main Street Market, which I was just tickled to see how successful that has been this last year. And there's our very own Joe Greer in the bottom photo, dressed as an elf. And at the Christmas in Meridian events, the Children's Wonderland Festival, even though we couldn't hold it in its normal way, we still found a way and did, we sent craft bags home with kids to have Christmas crafts to do from home. We adapted many, even though we didn't have a lot of our traditional events like movie night, which we're very excited to see start back up this weekend. We adapted and found ways to do new kinds of activities and events, like our backyard camp out, like our fall door decorating contest, like the autumn scavenger hunt. Now shifting over to some of the numbers. I'm really focused on that bottom number of 2.61 because our goal is to try, we've always been around 3 acres per thousand. That's kind of our benchmark, okay? That's 3 acres of parkland for every 1,000 people that live in a city. We've decreased that number recently because of the big influx of people. You get a lot more people, same number of parks. You decrease the ratio of parkland per 1,000. So we really want to see that get up. Our goal per our adopted master plan is to, we'd love to see us get to 4 acres per 1,000, but right now we are fighting just to stay at 3 because our growth is so rapid. Discovery Park will be the next one to help us get that number up. You guys did get the presentation on all the sports and tournaments that this slide was drawn from, and council hadn't seen it. So I wanted to share this with them because I thought this was just an incredible story to me. And I know you guys got a lot out of it as well. When it was presented from, I think it was Maggie that presented this one. But, last year we still had 3,900 participants in our sports leagues and 425 teams as broken down below. And again, in spite of the challenges, our mantra of do what you can, have protocols in place and do it safely. I was really proud of the way that this team found a way through. So now let's get on to the current challenges and opportunities looking forward. So number one is the community center. So we've talked about the community center, the existing one there. There is an RFP out on the streets. And just 2 days ago, there was a pre-proposal conference for developers to walk through the site and take a look. Their proposals aren't due until I think it's August. And building a new community center through that RFP is currently optional. It's not a requirement of the new RFP. So we may or may not get proposals that would build one. If those proposals don't come in with one, we are committed, and I believe the mayor and council are committed that we we'll have a plan for the new community center before the old one comes down. But there is a distinct possibility of this old one coming down, and we're part of our budget is to request funds to do a needs analysis, concept planning, design development for the new community center, and really define what this new community center should be for our community. There's a budget request for the capital replacements. You saw the old equipment that's in the photo as part of your tour that badly needs to be replaced. And the irrigation system has its challenges, and we need to get a new pump system out there and replace those lines. And then we have an on-course restroom that needs to have some upgrades for ADA. I think you know about those. So that's another big part of our budget request. Pathways is pretty much always our number one request in terms of priority. It continues to be the commission's top priority on your stated, goals for the year. And what you see on this list are the 12 or 13 projects that you guys helped us identify last year, and that Kim has been actively working with consultants to dig into and figure out which ones are feasible to move forward. And the ones you see in bold on the left are the 6 that we have determined through this winter and spring's process of due diligence to say, these are the low-hanging fruit that are ready to move forward. So we will be requesting budget to complete design and as far into the construction as we can get for those 6 projects. So we do look forward to having those pathway projects move forward. Discovery Park. We won the award, like I mentioned, for phase 1. We want to do a significant expansion for phase 2 that includes the active area with pickleball and tennis and bocce ball and a community garden. We've got the multi-use fields that, function primarily as softball fields, but can also be used in their outfields because of the way the fence lines and the lighting will work, that we can use some lit fields for, soccer, football, lacrosse type activities as well. We got the teen area that includes some things that we heard from teens that they want to do, like hammocking, as well as some of the active sports like a new skate park out there. And then we've got a bike park planned for that southeast corner that'll have some pump tracks and some BMX jumps and some high adrenaline stuff for those that are into that kind of thing. So something for everyone coming to this park. This is probably our biggest single request in our budget. We're looking to budget all the dollars we currently have in our impact fee fund, which is about $14 million, go toward this. And with the way costs are going, it may not cover everything we want it to, but we will adapt and phase as appropriate to take this project forward. If things stay on schedule, our plan would be we're finishing design this year. Currently, we just had a design meeting earlier today. We're going through the budget process right now. If the funding's approved, we would bid this fall going into winter with an idea that early next year we would kick off construction. Construction would be about an 18-month process, plus or minus, and late summer of 2023 is when this phase would open. The master plan. One of the most startling numbers to me as I was kind of looking into the master plan, which was only adopted just over 5 years ago. It's been 5.5 years ago now. But the population then was 80 some thousand and change. the current forecast is about 127,000, I believe. So we've added more than 50% new population to the city just in the time since this plan was adopted. We feel like it's time to update it, to go out with a new survey, to talk with all these new residents, find out what's important to them, what the priorities are, what amenities they want to see, so that we know that we're building the parks and amenities that people want. We are, as part of that, you can see kind of that bottom line cost recovery analysis and modeling. There's a big interest among many of the council, our finance department, to do a cost recovery philosophy update and look at all of our fees, and are they, which ones are subsidized because they benefit the general population, like say park maintenance, right? We don't charge people to go to the parks, but we do charge people to be in a sports league, and are we recouping the right amount of costs? And so this would be a look at that, and if funded, you would be involved. So heads up for some work that may be coming your way. But we're proposing a budget to update that master plan and do the cost recovery analysis as well. MAP stands for Meridian Art in Public Spaces, I believe, and it's an ordinance that is out there. And you heard the update from Audrey of all the arts work that is ongoing with her and the city. And every year there's an ordinance that says that the city shall allocate 50 cents per capita with a maximum of 100,000. So, or no, 150,000. So 100,000 population. So $50,000 to go towards public art. So we'll be asking for that with the intent of putting that money toward the next public art location, which happens to be one that we love, the new 10-mile trailhead that we met at for the Pathways Tour, and get some new art out there. That RFP is already out. Submissions have already come in, and the committee from the Arts Commission that is reviewing that is meeting next Tuesday, a week from yesterday, to hear those presentations. So that process is moving forward. And then park identity. Every 2 or 3 years, we like to do a park identity project, like we did at Renaissance and Champion. Those were specifically art partnerships, but these projects are all about adding something unique to the park to reinforce its identity. Seasons kind of has a built-in name that could be, played off of in ways that don't currently exist. I mean, it has the name Seasons Park, but it's a fairly basic neighborhood park with a restroom and a playground, and that we'd like to add something to it, whether it's art or a unique bike rack, but somehow play off that seasons theme. So we're proposing to do that. Several years ago, the comment was made that all of our neighborhood parks are basically the same. You could stand in one and not know if you were in this one or that one, because they had all the same basic amenities, but nothing unique or identifiable about them. And this has been a process to make them unique and identifiable. And then we have a potential partnership with Brighton Corporation to build 4 new pickleball courts in Kleiner Park. These are the pickleball courts that are in Rita Husky Park, but we've got, I think, 3 courts there. We're looking at possibly building 4 courts in Kleiner Park in the northwest corner, kind of on the backside of the berm. And I believe you guys have already been updated on that project as well. But we would be asking for our portion of that budget to do our part, which the majority is going to be done by Brighton. Cost-wise is about a $300,000 donation from them. And we would need to do about $20,000 worth of grading and signage and stuff like that. So other challenges independent of some of these independent from budgets. Staffing, we continue to have staffing challenges as much of the world this day and age does. Summer camp starts next week, and we just had one of the summer camp staff quit this week because they found another job, and we've lost 4 or 5 seasonal park maintenance workers already, and had similar challenges with our part-time staff at home court. And so the struggle's real for a lot of people out there, but we're not immune, and we're feeling that as well. The golf course has had similar staffing challenges, and having enough staffing for all the special events that you're about to hear from Garrett. Our parks staff actually do help staff those. So those are some of the challenges that are real that we continue to work on. Teen Activity Night is kind of a new proposal, and you heard from Renee about that. So I don't think I need to say too much, but we're excited to bring that as a pilot program in August to the home court on Friday nights that kind of coincide with our movie nights in Settlers Park, and give the teens a place to go and hang out and do some virtual reality games and all kinds of different activities that will be going on at the home court there. Urban Forestry Management Plan, you just heard an update on that. The pathway connectivity, preparing for the Meridian pool with a question mark. Don't know for sure if or when, but that's certainly, but you heard it in the mayor's State of the City address. So if you listen to that, so something that's definitely on our radar of something to prepare for. And then getting ready for the development and figuring out the funding for these future parks. West Meridian Regional Park would be what we also know as the Borat property out west. Our next big regional park, kind of like what we're doing for Discovery right now, but in the west side of town. There's a new idea for a park up in the northwest called the Fields District. Brundage Gray Cliff is a neighborhood park down in the south that we have on our radar. And then not listed here because it's out of ways, but still very much, oh, it is listed here. Aldape, there it is the big, beautiful park along the Boise River. When we're able to do that as a partnership. So that is my update and kind of a preview of some of most of the things that we're going to be talking about in our budget presentation and discussion with council next week. And I'm going to stop there and ask if you have any comments or questions. Thank you.
So I wanted to add that when we were on the Pathways tour, that Steve did show us how quickly he could fix a bicycle tire for Commissioner Bobo. It's pretty impressive. So the little spot over there on Pine was pretty effective. I just wanted to add to the community center. I feel like that's a pretty important piece to the city just because it's Meridian and we are about community. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Also, I was kind of curious with all of the growth, because we have so many people from out of the area. Has anyone considered maybe classes for these new residents to help? Because they have private property that have trees and plants and different seasonal care needs, but maybe they don't know.
For like tree care and stuff?
Like trees, or if they don't know
I've
about
actually taught one, yes.
sprinklers. Are you?
So come up to the microphone.
All right, we'll just throw you into this conversation. Just a thought.
Actually have plans for more classes in the future. They've happened in the past. Last year was unique for obvious reasons because of COVID. We weren't able to do a lot of them, but I have plans for several classes actually in the future, and a chunk of them that I want to use to kind of segue into a volunteer program too. So I've got plans for that.
Because I know I sold my house and my front yard was special and I was worried about the people killing it. So
For anyone watching, don't top your trees.
yes, exactly. So anyway, that's all I had. Did anyone have a comment?
Madam President.
Commissioner West.
I saw recently in the news, Eagle is selling some land that was going to be a park, or at least many residents thought it was going to be a park off Meridian Road. And I was just wondering if that change in plans is going to at all impact our long-term goals to connect to Eagle.
Nothing that I have heard. We still plan to connect to Eagle. Linder's one of those locations that gets us up to Eagle Island State Park, and then the Locust Grove access that gets up toward Banbury Golf Course, and that way are still our connection points for pathways. I certainly have not been made aware of anything that would change our plans to connect to Eagle.
Madam President,
Commissioner Bobo.
will Discovery Park be the next park that's completed? Like, I'm no phase 2. I mean, there was other parks on the list of future parks, but given the size of it, will be the next one. And my follow-up question would be when it is, or when the other ones are done. What do you have a guesstimate of what the acres per 1,000 people would be when that part is done?
I did calculate what the acres per 1,000 would be if it were finished today. And it got us really close back up to 3. If it was like 2.98 or something like that. I can't remember. It was in the 2.9s somewhere.
That's good.
So the problem is between now and 2023, when it's done, more people are going to move here. And if you can tell me how many more will move here, we can run the calculation and tell you what the level of service will be.
I said guesstimate. I know
Yeah.
it's not a solid number.
It'll be something less, right? So we'll still be fighting to get it up to 3, because it would basically get us back to 3 if it were built today. It's not built today. So it depends on how much more population comes, how far it'll pull that number back from 3.
Steve, does that take into consideration the new developments that will have open or green space? Or
It
is
does
that-
not. So that is an interesting question. And for your own benefit, this level of service number is an interesting number. If you look at the NRPA, the national statistics for what they say the average city has, you will find that number is closer to 10 acres per 1,000. However, let me say that you don't feel like you're underserved here. And it has to do with the different ways people calculate that number, because it's not uniform. Some incorporate a lot of like foothills open space, for example, that aren't highly developed Discovery Park type park spaces. I ran a calculation a couple of years ago of what I would call our effective level of service. If you were to include all the HOA parks that aren't part of this number and all of the school parks that are not part of this number, it was actually very close to 10. So I think our goal is not aiming low for the wrong reasons. It's actually probably about right. And I think people feel like we have great parks and that we're not in this way underserved mode for having parks. And it's because of those HOA parks that aren't part of our city park system, but for the residents, it's very much part of their park system, right? So while we are focused on a city park number of 3 to 4 acres per 1,000, there is an effective, or it feels more like we're closer to that 10 acres per 1,000 overall when you include everything that's out there.
Sounds-
Madam President.
Commissioner Gilson.
Steve, just as a quick question, would it be helpful in your calculations going forward? I remember when I first started on the commission, we had ITD and Compass come give us their 40-year prognosis. And, at the time they said, well, we're expecting 1.25 million people for Ada and Kenyon County combined. I mean, with the explosion of people we've had during the pandemic, during the lockdown, because when we shut down, there was no traffic. It was beautiful.
Right.
Then we opened back up and it looked like there were more people than when we had shut down last
Yeah,
year.
I think there were.
And so would it be helpful for them to come back to us, to this commission, and see if their analysis, if their data, if their numbers have changed within the last 2 years of their
Well,
last?
I know they continue to look at that. The question is it helpful for you, for us to invite them? And we can put that on our radar if the commission would like an update from groups like that, you know, maybe from Compass or whoever, talk about their population growth projections, things like that. I know that everything I've heard is that the actual growth has outpaced anyone's projections. And so the actuals are a lot higher than what those forecasted models showed.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Looks like
Oh,
we're off the hook now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, next we have the Meridian Parks and Rec Department External Events Update with Garrett White, the Recreation Manager.
Commission, thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to talk about external events, like the president said, and kind of talk about how many we got coming up this year and kind of the process for you guys, just for your information on the process to get a special event in the parks, in some of our city parks. So to start with, in 2021, currently we have about 80 scheduled special events to happen in our parks. And that's from March through basically the middle of October. The list that you guys have, I don't know if Rachel, our copier broke. Did everybody get a copy of this? Oh, right on. So this is kind of the list here. And this does include some of our internal events as well, but it just kind of, it gives you a rundown of what's going on. The highlighted red ones are cancellations. So the majority of the cancellations happened in March, April, and May, as you will see on this list. There are a few here and there towards the end of the season that they just didn't feel comfortable putting all the time and effort and money into an event that they weren't sure if they could host. So they do plan on having it in 2022. So I've started working with those groups already for 2022. Typically how we do that is once the event's over, we meet, we discuss it, and we start booking next year if everything went well. So it's fresh in our minds. We have notes and things like that. This year, right now, there's still 61 event days that are still planning on happening. Some of them are major events that are large scale events that we talk about. Others are just smaller events. Some things that I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about, just for, like I said, for you guys' information, is what do we consider, or how do we consider it to be a special event? If somebody calls or they email or they go online to reserve a park. If it's just a basic birthday party, it's not a big special event, no big deal in there. But how we kind of judge it is we ask ourselves is, does it change the normal or typical use of the park? And how is it going to affect those that are in the park as well using it? Because it's not just that one group using the park. So we have two different ways of doing it. So when they call the office and they talk to staff, they typically hit Jeanette or Vicky up in the front desk first on the phone tree, and they'll ask the typical questions. Oh, what do you got going on? Is it a birthday party or what? And they start asking those questions. And as if it starts kind of getting to where this is going to be kind of a bigger thing, they automatically transfer that to me, and I get to talk to them about food trucks and alcohol and beer gardens and, different parking plans and all the above, if it kind of leads to that. So that's kind of how we do that. If they try to register something online, because we have all of our online abilities right now to do shelter reservations or fields and those types of things. We have different prompts on there, and those prompts are really questions that they have to acknowledge or say yes, no, put in a number of attendants and things like that, that actually flag it to where we know if there's a 600 person event at shelter A1 at Kleiner, well, that's probably going to be a special event that we need to talk about. And I get in touch with them and we kind of go through that. But a lot of it, the flags are anticipated attendance, like I mentioned, food trucks, bounce houses, the number of bounce houses, the extra tents they're bringing in, those types of things. And that actually really does help us determine what's going to be. If we determine that it's going to be a temporary use permit or a big special event, I start working with the event organizer and I start working with our current staff. I've actually got the opportunity to work with Matt a couple of times on certain events regarding food trucks pulling into Kleiner Park. Matt gets to saw it and looking at trimming trees for us to get food trucks in and this and that. So it's been really helpful for me and as well as our park staff to know what's going on out there. So the temporary use permit process really kind of starts with making a reservation. So again, they talk to me, we make the reservation and go through that. While I'm doing that, I'm actually going to give out park rules and regulations. And Rachel, were we able to get the commission the event planners handbook that we hand out? Not yet. So you guys will get that. That is a 16 to 17 page document that really lists all the park rules, regulations, and kind of what we, it basically to answer a lot of their questions, right? So I encourage you guys to review that. It kind of talks about what insurance we need, and City of Meridian listed as additionally insured, and those types of things, fees and what they cost, and the process with that. So with the event planners handbook, I do like to meet on site with the event organizer, with park staff. And typically I do that. Some of them, it's a large scale event, like for the Soul Food Festival, it's come up August 8th, 7th or 8th, one of the first Saturday in August. We've already met on site. We've talked about things. We go different things. Oh, Rachel's bringing up the event planners handbook right there. Screen. So we meet on site with typically the park staff that is scheduled to work the event as well. A lot of these events, we require that a city staff is on site with them, and they actually pay a fee for that service to have park staff check restrooms, trash cans, make sure they're not driving on the grass, make sure they're not busting sprinkler heads and those types of things. And if the power trips, park staff's there to flip things on. But this event planners handbook is very helpful. Once people read it, they're like, this is awesome. I asked them to review it, and then we start talking from there. Once we meet on site, we kind of go over all the logistics. I always try to do that before the event organizer submits the temporary use permit to the clerk's office. And I work with the clerk's office as well as the event organizer still to get everything turned in and on time. Once it turned in, now police, fire, building, clerk's office, legal, myself, all of us go into our files and we approve it, put conditions on it, those types of things. So that's kind of the quick rundown of the process of getting a special event in the city of Meridian. I probably get literally 4 to 5 calls a week on people wanting to run bigger events in Meridian. The reality of it is a lot of our parks are already used or already booked for those dates. As you can kind of see, Kleiner Park's a very popular one, that and or Settlers. A lot of the times I'll look at what else is happening in the park already. So if somebody wants to reserve something this year, it's going to be pretty difficult for a large scale event to come in this year because there's already shelter reservations at all the other parks, those types of things. So typically a big scale, large scale event is going to have to be planned at least a year out so that we can get that planning process going. One of the main reasons we do that, because if you have a big wedding reception over here, you don't want to have a huge big party going on over here with the special event. So that is kind of the quick, dirty version of how to do an event in Meridian. So at that point, I'll stand for questions. You guys have any?
It's really interesting, actually.
A lot that goes into it. The main thing is really just communication with the event organizer and staff, because we all want to be on the same page, and it's way easier if you communicate.
And the temporary use permit goes through the clerk's office and through you.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's not like planning. Interesting.
I get to work with the clerk's department. I work a lot with Sean Harper in the police department, Joe Bonjourno in the fire department. When they talk about food trucks and beer gardens, things like that, we all work pretty well together.
A lot of part. Yes. Mr. Evans.
Madam President. Great question. So I try to be proactive on that. So if there's a major event, we'll just say the Soul Food Festival, just for example, because that's a big event that we just got done talking about. We make them book the whole park. So there really isn't an issue when it comes to that. Now, if it's a smaller event like a Justapalooza that's coming up here in 2 weeks, I want to say like the Friday night, they're having a big thing out there. I made them reserve the band shell, shelter A1 and, or I'm sorry, band shell, shelter A3 and A4 to avoid conflicts with that. They're going to be far enough away from shelter A1 and the splash pad to where it shouldn't be that big of an issue. But we do those types of things. So if it's a bigger event, we'll require that they reserve certain other parts of the park to avoid bigger issues. But there are instances to where there'll just be a regular shelter reservation. I'll use this example. This big soccer event happened at Hillsdale Park, big bunch of soccer games. Well, we didn't know it was going to be that big of a soccer game, and there was a shelter reservation. So we had a concern with shelter reservation. So we resolved the issue and stuff like that. But there are some of those conflicts. We just try to work them out. The thing is communicate and be proactive the best way we can. So we flagged that, and the youth group that was out there, we know now that, hey, if you're going to do this again next year, then we need to make sure the shelters are reserved as well. And just trying to be proactive. That's a great question. It does happen.
Just have a great city. What can we say?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Garrett. Exactly. So moving on to old business, we have a Lakeview Golf Tour debrief with Mike Barton, our park superintendent.
Hello, commissioners. So I want to spend a couple minutes and just debrief on last month's meeting at Lakeview Golf Course. I know that aside from the first meeting in person that we've had for a long time, I think my favorite part of the meeting was having Matt dig into trees
into the tree, yeah.
with his knife and get into pests and stuff like that. I mean, that was really just, I mean, that wasn't staged at all. That just happened. So it was really cool. But so I wanted to ask two things. What did you like about it? And then now that you've had time to think about it, what questions do you have?
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Tolsino.
Mike, I mean, as a golfer, I'm excited to see the honestly, I'll be completely honest. I had no idea that it was there. Ever since I moved to Meridian, I've been using Boise Ranch Club. That's the closest one. I had really bad experience at Warm Springs. I don't go back. So I just like seeing the maintenance and how clean and everything is. The fairways, the greens, everything looks nice at Lakeview. And so I'm excited to see the future as we continue to, improve upon it and the maintenance of it. It looks great.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Hyde.
I was actually able to go play the first 9 holes, and the way people were talking about it and what I was hearing about it made it sound like it needed a lot of help and that it was in really poor condition. But when I got to go see it and actually play, I was like really impressed with, the layout and that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I know that there's a lot of room for improvement, but I'm excited because I think it can be an amazing course down the road.
Yeah, me too.
Madam President.
Yes.
So I have
Commissioner
to
West.
ask, did we get the trees treated?
Yeah. Yeah, Matt was out there. It was a process because
Scrubbing them.
because part of the issue is you can't take a truck out there, obviously, it's on the grass. And then seems like the wind's been blowing every day for the last month or so. So that's always an issue. I know Matt was fighting he'd get all geared up and ready to go out early in the morning and it's like, how did the spraying go? And it didn't because it's windy. So they're treated, and it's something that's been neglected for so long that, once you get a handle on it, you may not have to do it every year. You kind of suppress that stuff and bring things into a better state of health. So there's a lot of catch up to do.
I really appreciated that we took that tour so that people did know that the golf course was there. I have golfed on it. I was curious though, have we had any feedback from residents around the golf course or even just residents in general about what's happening there?
Yeah, we've had a lot.
Okay. excited?
They are, people, there's a process and the process takes time. And I think people want a overnight transformation of things. And in addition to that, like everybody has been hearing, there's labor shortages and challenges, especially in food and beverage and hospitality. So we do currently have some challenges with food and beverage and maintaining the staff in there that people are accustomed to. And it's a product of conditions right now. Last night we had a food truck out there for the first time. The kitchen's been closed. We've been having turn stand style offerings with wraps and sandwiches and bagged snacks and full beverages still. But last night is the first night that we had Tony's taco truck come out for Taco Tuesday. And I got a couple of pictures text to me last night that the back patio was full of people and they were all waving to the camera and they were smiling and having a good time. So we'll adapt. It'll be okay.
Process.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's a beautiful course. It does have room for improvement, but I also thought it was interesting to learn about the trees on the course. I didn't realize there were so many pine trees.
Yeah, you know what, honestly, one of the cool things is that a lot of golf courses that are wide open are really exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
And when you're, because that's kind of buried in the neighborhood, it's very sheltered. It's neat.
It is. I agree. Okay,
Okay,
you're off the hook early.
thank you.
Thank you so much. So we do not have any workshops tonight. Next, we have the staff reports. Oh, did I miss Kim? Oh, because Mike's on here twice. Sorry, Kim. Okay, next we have Spring Pathways Tour Debrief with Kim Warren. Our Pathways Project Manager. Most important, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President and Commissioners. It's great to see you. Maybe not quite as great to be here as it is to be out on the pathways. So we had a good turnout for our group. I know a couple of you missed. So I've had Rachel bring up the route here just to kind of, as a reminder, we started at our new trailhead. Took a quick glance to the west to look at some proposed pathway and a crossing of the 9 Mile Creek. And then we had, before the tour, had this wonderful problem of we could actually go, I think it was 11 miles, and is that too long? And that's never been an issue for us before. And it turns out it wasn't, it was a really smooth ride. I think this ride had, excepting the wonderful repair at the Pine Avenue rest stop of Commissioner Bobo's tire, we didn't really have much drama. It seems like on past tours, we run into places, we either have to get in the van or we're crossing 10 Mile Road in its previous state where it was felt like a suicide run. Or we're riding through sprinklers over grass. And this one was a very contiguous run, and we had signaled crossings. We kind of blew past our potential turnaround point. So it was, it was the longest one we've ever took by bike. We've had the COVID challenge of needing to stay out of an enclosed van. So bit of a summary, we went by looked at some projects under construction or recently finished, and saw some proposed projects, did some finger pointing. So I would ask you the same questions that Mike did, just solicit some feedback. What were your impressions? What did you like? Maybe even thinking ahead to next year, we might have more flexibility. So what would you like to see in the future? And with that, I will stand for comments or questions.
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Bobo.
First, thank you very much, Steve. You were excellent bike repairman. Is the Fairview connection section done yet?
So, Madam President, Commissioner, it is under construction.
Remember seeing it? How
It is
long
not
when
done.
will it be
It's
done?
been a bit of a challenge. Sometimes when you tear up pavement or go digging, you just run into things you don't expect. So we've had a couple of starts where we've had to problem solve. We ran into some communication utilities. We have a drainage bed that's associated with the pathway that wasn't draining. So we're doing a little bit of problem solving. It's nice. Mike's helps out with that, and we can kind of, it's the same contractor who's working on Heroes Park. So we can kind of keep him busy regardless, which is nice. So no, that was not done yet. It's on pause for now. We're doing a bit of problem solving, but it's definitely a priority to get back on that and finish what's torn up and make that connection, which will open up a lot for us.
Yeah, as a follow-up, that because we went around that and went through a gate, that's not generally open, right? Is there a way for us to get through there before it's done?
So
Was that, am I confusing the connectors?
before it's done,
No?
yeah, I don't know. And you could maybe, I think you can go out the gate, you just can't get back in. So yes, you could, but then it leaves you in a bit of a bind. You might be able to, yeah, I don't know what the solution would be.
Madam President, yeah, so you have to go, you don't even get on the pathway there at, I think it's Badly, you turn, as you're going north, you turn left and go through the apartments and go to Fairview. There is no good way around. So it's extremely important to get it completed as soon as possible.
So yeah, it's on the schedule. Okay.
Madam President.
Sure, Justin.
Kim, I really enjoyed the Pathways tour. I appreciate you guiding us through it. One thing I noticed, not on the tour, but later on, the kids and I, our family and I, we went from our apartment off of 10 Mile and Pine to Fancy Freeze. I believe it's Linder and Eustick here in Meridian. And what's that? Linder and McMillan, thank you. We started out, we did 10 Mile all the way to McMillan, then hanged right. And then on the way back, we took Linder all the way back, which on our GPS, the GPS spike version, it said, from our apartment to Fancy Freeze, taking the 10 Mile route was going to be 18, 19 minutes. Linder was supposed to be 21. We found that just the straight shot from Linder and then onto Pine was a lot quicker on the way back. But there was a section of Linder, and I can't remember where it was, but it was, it was, sidewalk, 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 and then the sidewalk ended. We had to go around kind of on the road and back onto the sidewalk. Are there plans, or first of all, is that section there? Oh, I did not know I could touch the screen here. Is that section there that's kind of interrupted between the sidewalk, between the two sidewalks on that stretch of Linder? And I apologize, I wish I could tell you specifically where it was. Would there be plans to connect that sidewalk? And then a second question as a follow-up question would be, instead of having to do, if, we're on 10 Mile all the way to McMillan and then hang a right, that giant L, are there opportunities for pathways that kind of cut through?
So Madam President, Commissioner, great questions. A couple of things occur to me. I can't, even as you weren't naming it quite specifically, I can picture it mostly, but I will say that, as Steve mentioned earlier, Locust Grove and Linder are key routes north, and we're trying to, I've been working on Locust Grove just this week, but with Locust Grove and Linder, pick up the gaps so that we can get north to Eagle eventually. But for now, get as far as Chinden and the new improvements associated with those intersections. So it's likely on our list. And it seemed like of our baker's dozen and the half dozen that appeared to be feasible, I know a lot of those were on Locust Grove and Linder. So I think it's probably being addressed. The other thing that comes to mind is, we haven't had opportunity to do any kind of a pathways workshop for a while. Those are usually a fall event, but I think, it's my job as as we go on and as growth happens and annexations to try to stay ahead of growth and make sure we've got connections, places where you don't get walled off in a subdivision like some of the older areas of town. But I think a good workshop topic might be just like thinking about what are the destinations and the routes that either within your own neighborhoods you care about, or and generally on a larger community scale. You know, we know some of those destinations, the YMCA and future parks, but it could be worth maybe a topic for a workshop to get into that level of detail and look at some specific routes. Or I know that we're still working on McMillan and Locust Grove, and I think of Commissioner West often. Just, you know, sometimes you notice particular areas and there are particular frustrations. So that would be a way to try to highlight some of those and address them. If that answers your question.
Yes, and Madam President, for one final follow-up question, and I think this might be addressed maybe even to Mike and Steve. In a situation where, let's say we're riding back to our home on Linder, and there's the sidewalk, and then there's a stretch of the road where there is no bike path on there. And let's say, on this stretch of sidewalk that we're riding, it's residential area, and the wall that divides the sidewalk and the residential area is someone's backyard, and they've got massive trees and foliage that kind of present a bit of a hazard while you're on your bike riding that sidewalk. I know it's private property, so it's kind of tough, but how do we address that? Because I mean, if there's no bike path on the road, we can't just throw ourselves into the middle of the street.
I'll turn it over to Mike.
So private property owners are responsible for low-hanging limbs over sidewalks and streets. And I want to say the height over a sidewalk is 12 feet and over a street is 14. I have the numbers wrong, but anyway, if you see something like that, that's a code enforcement issue. Call code enforcement, give them the address.
Thank you.
And Madam President and Commissioner Gelsomino, I would follow up and say that, no, I'm losing my train of thought. Pardon me, I didn't get much sleep last night. Trees, we're running into some issues in general with, or there will be future challenges, I think, with pathway maintenance. So HOAs will be responsible for that. Basically the developments that built the pathways in the first place. But I know I've had a call or two saying this one's in pretty bad shape, and sometimes you can point to the HOA, but I think we're going to need to problem solve or strategize as to, how do we get in front of that and notify people and enforce as necessary. So those kinds of issues are useful to observe as well. Are there any more questions? I have one more comment after.
I was going to say that if it's over a wall, they might not even be aware. I know that we had trees, but they were in the parkway, so you'd see them when you went to get your mail. But I did want to say that I liked the tour. I know several of us actually rode from our homes to the trailhead.
That's great.
One thing I did notice, I went through, Barberry. There's a subdivision that's right across, it's back behind Walmart. Well, there are several subdivisions. It was hard to figure out where to go. So in really large developments where the subdivisions are all basically connected, I had to keep stopping and looking at my phone because I had to find the path. So I know that you've discussed signage, and some of it was actual pathways, so that was easier to follow. But when you have to take sidewalks, it's kind of difficult to navigate.
Commissioner or Madam President, I totally hear you. And I've done similar things going out where print part of a map, maybe so I can annotate, but it's a tough one. I know we've talked about pathways on Google Maps, but then you're looking at your phone again. I know with the 5 mile pathway, and I think we talked on the field trip about striping it for identity. Right. So it would help with that major pathway. But yeah, that's definitely.
I can't really do it on the sidewalk.
Right. No, it
It's-
can, things can get really lost and you have to kind of scout in advance. And that's something definitely for us to think about in terms of mapping or how we help with wayfinding. I'll definitely take note of that comment. I think it's a good
I
observation.
hadn't thought about it until
Yeah.
I went through these subdivisions. And
Yep.
thought, wait a minute. I
You
think
have to be intrepid and kind of find your way
There's people
sometimes.
outside. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
It's a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a great tour. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that we went the entire way.
Madam President.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one question. We talked about it on the trail, but I would like to know the feasibility of putting distance markers in the parks that don't have like the clear 1 mile loops, like just like Champion, Rita Husky. People are trying to exercise some kind of distance marking. Would be really beneficial, I think. So
Madam President and Commissioner West, I completely agree. And I know that our front desk staff get a lot of calls saying, well, how long is the loop in? And, we have sheet information for that we can look up, but it's, yeah, I think if it were right there in the park and it could maybe just be a pretty simple sign, definitely something to add to we are going to be doing a panel workshop with the Urban Land Institute that will focus, it's still kind of in the works. I don't remember the timing. It's out on the horizon a little bit, but some of it will be focused on placemaking and wayfinding and some kind of comfort considerations for pathways. So that would be a great thing to add to that list, I think, and shouldn't be too difficult, but I think it would save staff quite a bit of time, all told. So one more comment, if I may, and Emily, are you still here? If she's not, then I don't know. So Chelsea,
I'm
thank you.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just, I was going to let any of the commissioners who couldn't make the pathway tour know that Chelsea and I are going to be riding the same route. She's our volunteer coordinator and we've got an idea for a volunteer project. So we were going to ride that route so she could see it. We're going to do that Tuesday morning at 9:30. So I don't want to be setting up inadvertently a meeting. But I thought I might put it out there to one or two. It's not a great time to break away for the day, but if anyone who didn't make the tour would like to ride along or could, what is our limit, Emily, for people? Would you remind me?
Yes, so a meeting happens when there's a quorum and the people are talking about the business of the commission. So if there were fewer than 5 commissioners, and if it were just general pathway information or just a general tour rather than getting into specifics, that would be okay.
Okay, so that sounds like it might work. If anyone is interested who didn't make the trip, no pressure. Just we will be riding the exact same route again. So, and that's Tuesday. I think it's the 15th at 9:30 a.m. before it gets hot. So, reach out to me. Let me know if that sounds.
Thank you for ordering the good weather for our tour. That was the other thing. That was probably the nicest.
It was a lovely night.
Of our
Yeah.
tours. Yeah,
So,
that's good.
all right. I probably took Mike's extra time. So, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kim. Okay, I'm going to go back to Mike so I don't miss you. We have Discovery Park Phase 2 update with Mike Barton, the park superintendent. I was just going to skip on through everything.
I would have come up here and just talked in front of an empty dais. So I think the extra time, I honestly think Steve took it because some of the design changes were in the strategic plan. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to talk about these in a minute. So hang on a minute. But I don't know that how much you remember from a couple of months ago when we did talk about the design of Discovery Park. And at that time, we came to you with a concept and a list of amenities. And right after that, we went back and we went to, this isn't advancing, Rachel. We went back and I will wait for this. Maybe I needed that extra time after all. Okay, okay. So this was the design that you saw in December. And it was, we discussed the 4 different, or at that time, 3 different areas. We had the multi-use fields, we had an active recreation complex, and then a teen area. So since then, we took that plan to city council in April. And we went over the list of amenities with city council, and we wanted to see what their thoughts were on it. And there were a couple of adjustments made. And those, specifically those adjustments were adding a skate park instead of a skate spot that we originally had. So a more robust area for teens that could accommodate, like skate park stuff. Like we have one in Tully, and it's heavily used. It's been there for a long time, and it's kind of on the north side of town. So there's a real need for one on the south side of town. I think it's an awesome idea. The other thing that was added was a couple of tennis courts that could be dual striped for both tennis and pickleball. So another great idea. We had the 6 pickleball courts in the original design, and this will give us a total of 8. So, and then a little bit of flexibility in having that dual use for tennis and pickleball. And then probably one of the biggest adjustments was the addition of a 3.5 acre bike park that has a dirt loop and a couple of pump tracks. We learned from touring the bike park at the city of Boise that they have a couple of pump tracks, and one is primarily for like toddlers and training wheels and lower speed, beginner uses, and the other one's for more advanced. So they have had a lot of really good success separating the uses, and that without that, there'd be a ton of conflicts. So we brought that into this design. So, and this is not advancing. Still, so I have a breakdown of each kind of a window area look at those. So this is the bike park area, and it's in the lower, kind of the southeastern corner of the park. You can see the style of like BMX style jumps that, and we'd have a couple of different skill levels with that. There would be probably, with the limited size that we have, where everybody starts out on one, and you could branch out to a more advanced trail over on one side, or take the easy way around on the other, and then a couple of pump tracks and a picnic shelter. There would be a pathway in between, and possibly some bermed spectator seating. The teen area, like I said before, we had the skate spot, and we have an area for hammocks, sand volleyball, an open lawn area, but we added a skate park to it. And you can see the diagram below. It's comparable to the skate park that the city of Star did. In talking to some of the designers and the builders of skate parks, this was one that has been performing really well in the area. They did roads, and they did the city of Stars skate parks, and they're all over. So one of the things that we are doing as far as execution is we're doing a design build type contracts with both the skate park company and the bike park designer builder, because these are so specialized. You can't have an engineer or a landscape architect draw all this stuff. The guys that do this work need to also design it. And so we're going to put out an RFP. It should go out here in about a week or so, and we'll negotiate up front the best builder, the best price, the best delivery overall, so we can get a really first-class product at a reasonable cost. So the active area did change a little bit. Before we had the pump track next to the pickleball court and the basketball court. So that is now located in the bike park area. We organized the court a little better. There's still the pickleball courts. There's a couple of bocce ball courts, basketball court, community garden. And then one of the really cool things, and you can kind of see a schematic of it in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, is a 40-yard dash that will locate next to the playground area. If you remember Discovery Park where the zip line is, there's a concrete sidewalk right where the zip line is. So just beyond that, we'd have a 40-yard dash. And these are, it's a rec grass, like built, you know, kind of like a football field surfacing with hash marks. And there's an electronic timer. So you can race your friends. So we got the kind of the zip line going. You can race your friends, or you can race your dad and tell him how slow he is, and fun. It's cool. And then the field area. One of the things we did is we took one of the larger fields and we drew the fence into a 200-foot field instead of the typical softball field that's 300 feet. This still accommodates Little League and girls fast pitch softball. But what it did is it drew the outfield fence away from the backyards of the homes, because we were pushing so tight into the backyards that we'd need this big, tall netting system. And the cost of the netting system was just outrageous. So we drew the fence in. We also cut the lights on the one field. And so we have 2 lit fields. We have a restroom building there. You can see the floor plan. There's a concession, and there's 4 water closets on each side, and then 2 family restrooms that are large enough for a changing area, changing bench in each one. So if you show up to a softball game and you have your stuff in a bag, you want to change your clothes, you can duck into one of those and have a bench to sit on. And so that is that. And we still have the drop-off parking there that, you know, convenient for people to just pull up and let people out or drop off bags or whatever, and then go find a parking place and come back. So I think Steve covered some of the next steps, but we are applying for a certificate of zoning compliance. We need to get ACHD's review and approval, because we're doing not only building the park, but we're building part of a collector road on the east side of the park that's going to connect into Lake Hazel. Budget process, bid and contract, like was mentioned earlier, break ground and construct. It's a year plus for construction, and then some establishment period, because parks are something that when it's done, it's not like a store that you can just open up, vacuum the carpet and let everybody in. We got to grow it in for a couple of months. So we're targeting probably midsummer of 23 for a grand opening. Mid to late summer. I mean, I'm saying late summer, but realistically, it'll probably be midsummer. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
I think I have a question about the skate and bike park. Are those contractors, is that a specialty contractor?
Yeah.
Just a bit on that. Are they typically local, or?
They are not. There's one company. So there's a company called Grindline that did roads, and they did the skate park in the city of Star. And Grindline is in Oregon, somewhere close to Portland. But they travel all over. They're used to it. It's so specialized that it's just not you can't get a contractor that does concrete work and flat work to do that. It's a specialized technique of the forming and the shotcrete and finishing and, you know, applying that finish basically that's so specialized. And the bike park, there is a local company that's not as experienced as the out of town company. The company that was used to do Boise's. We're in the process of educating ourselves on who does the best work and who is the most responsive and offers value in their pricing. So there's a lot of conversations that are happening right now with other cities and people that have actually used these contractors. For some of the bike trails, even like Bogus Basin who's used one of the local builders. So we want to find out, you know, we call them up basically and just have a conversation, you know, how did you like them? It's not an official reference check, but it's more of a somebody that's, you know, we're just checking in. So that's kind of the process we're following.
I think that's responsible. And I think it's also the design build makes a lot of sense for something like that.
Yeah. For that, it really does. What else?
This park's really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's very diverse.
Madam President,
Yes.
just one quick thing on that racing track. Is that seen anywhere else in any of our other parks or in Boise's parks, or because I have never seen or heard of that, which sounds really cool, but.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, there's the new bike park in Boise down at Fort Boise has a BMX track with the wood. They have dirt jumps and wood ramps. And then they also have 2 pump tracks in the center of it.
I think he's talking about the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
Oh, the
dash
racing. I
one.
thought you were talking about the bike.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
my
sorry.
bad.
No, there isn't one around in this area.
Madam President in Camden, I've run on one myself, but it was in North Carolina. They exist in different, you know, states, but I haven't seen one locally. So this will be the first in the valley.
I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to, you know, race your friends and your buddies. And like I said, race your dad or your mom and laugh at them how slow they are.
Sounds like a prime ribbon cutting.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Very excited. Okay, now I can go on to no workshops and on to staff reports.
Madam President. Just you've already heard a lot of updates from me, but 2 things that I just wanted to touch on. One, I just wanted, if you've been wondering what the sticker is that I'm wearing on my shirt when I was up presenting, it says care enough to share on it. We're running a program for city staff right now through the summer that on Wednesdays they can donate $5 to our Care Enough to Share program, which is a scholarship program for families in need in the city of Meridian that helps give scholarships for need-based scholarships for kids to go to camp and classes in the activity guide. So it's been very successful. The staff have been incredibly generous. And in return, they get to wear jeans on Wednesday when it's not usually a jeans day for work. So got my jeans on, wearing them proudly today with my sticker. Because it's a great program that helps families in the community. So I just wanted to make a note of that. We will be publicizing that, and we publicize the Care Enough to Share program to families in the community through our activity guide every year, but we're going to make a more concerted effort here this summer because I know a lot of people are in need of an extra hand right now. So we're going to publicize that scholarship program. And then last thing for me, just maybe a final plug for Matt's urban forest management plan to say, please take a look at the link that he sent you with the details of the plan that he went over with you. And we would like to get your comments back, soon. So for me, soon would be like maybe the end of next week. so that you have like a week and a half to look at it. But we're hoping to make some changes, keep moving on it, update it. So if you read it, have questions, ideas, please share them with us. We'd like to keep this moving forward and take it forward to council soon and things like that. So we would appreciate any feedback you have. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody. So quiet. Do we have any more staff reports? Do you guys have anything? Thanks, good.
Madam President and Commissioners, I just one update. If you recall the Pine Avenue rest stop, one thing I've been working on this week is reviewing ACHD plans for the drainage basin, the sort of bare dirt area, depressed area that was adjacent to our improvements. So they're doing low water use landscape that will discourage geese, but encourage a more natural process for handling some of the stormwater to clean it. Anyway, so that is in the works, ECHD to improve that basin adjacent to the Pine Avenue rest stop, which I think will be, will only add to the appeal of that space. So just quick update on that. It's in the works.
That was the area that was being tested.
Yes, it had the upright pipes. So yeah, they've tested water levels and recommended plants. It's a little bit more of a science report than I am used to reviewing and probably, but yeah, that's moving along. And so I think that will, it's kind of an important image space and it's getting finished and improved.
That's great news.
Madam President, I think the only thing I would have to add to staff reports is, like Steve mentioned this earlier today, as well as Shelley, is movie night is this Friday, starts this Friday, and summer is officially here. The rec department, the rec coordinators are rocking and rolling. Staff is getting phone calls up front regarding stuff happening in the park. So summer is here. Our parks look great. I give shout out to guys like Matt and our park staff that are on site. I mean, those guys really help the rec department and the rec side when it comes to us using the parks. They look great. Softball fields look great. Our events are popping in the parks because they look great. And that's our park staff out in the field. So kudos to them, but that's all I'd really have to add.
Thank you. I agree. Everything does look great. And I still just the way that you guys adapted over the last year was really incredible. The whole Parks and Rec department. I'm really proud of being part of this city because of you guys. Anybody else have anything? No? Okay, I guess then we'll move on to an adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam President,
Commissioner Gelsomino,
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
can I get a second? Thank you, Commissioner Nesmith. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.